Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our special transmission on the 5th of February, that is the Kashmir Solidarity Day. We are present in the NUST Seminar Hall in Islamabad, and we'll be, in fact, doing and conducting some sort of analysis about the current situation in Kashmir, what exactly is going on out there, and why do we sort of observe this particular day? What is the significance of this date? And as we all know, that the Indian occupied forces, they are brutally killing the civilians of Kashmir. Now, since the freedom struggle has really gained momentum during the last 2 years or so, look at the number of innocent civilians who are being killed. Look at the number of women being raped out there on almost a daily basis. The way they are targeting the youth, that is unbelievable. The kind of weapons they're using on the youth, this pellet gun, that has blinded over 1,500 youngsters. It is just like a 12-bore shotgun, and they practically fire on your faces. They are blinding these civilians. The way they're changing the demographics in Kashmir, that is so important. The way this entire population of Kashmir is suffering. Look at the brutalities on almost daily basis. 700,000 trigger-happy military troops present. Just look at the ratio of civilian to military. And the draconian laws like POTA and so many others, they have been introduced there. So no trial, nothing. You can kill anybody and you can get away with it. This is exactly what is going on. The place is beautiful. That is called, basically, it's a living hell. A lot of people call it a heaven. Maybe it looks like that, but it doesn't feel like that at all. So these are the issues, and this day is celebrated because we all observe, and we, like the government of Pakistan for that matter, or any other political party, they have always supported the Kashmir cause. They've always supported this indigenous homegrown movement of the Kashmiris. They've always supported their right for self-determination. But unfortunately, on the other hand, the Indians, what they are doing, it's something which the world should know. Now, to talk about this particular issue and about the subject, and we'll do the in detail discussion also, we have with us the panelist. On my left is Abdul Basit Saab. Abdul Basit Saab is the former ambassador. He's been in India as well. He served there as an ambassador, and he's a senior diplomat. Thank you very much, Abdul Basit Saab, for taking out your time and being a part of a show. We have with us Lieutenant General retired Naeem Lodhi Saab. He's the former defense minister and has also served as a Secretary of Defense. Thank you very much, General Saab. And we have with us Professor Dr. Riffat Hussain Saab. He's a senior strategist and an IR expert. And we also have with us Altaf Wani Saab. He is a senior leader of all parties Hurriyat Conference. And next to him is Ahmed Qureshi Saab. He's a senior analyst and is also the executive director of YFK. It's an international Kashmir lobby group. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for taking out the time and being a part of the show. Now, sir, since you'll be having 2 minutes each to throw light on this particular day, that is the 5th of February, sir, the significance, the importance of this particular day, sir, the Kashmir Solidarity Day. Your take, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me and for making me part of this very important discussion. Why we observe this day, I think there are 3 primary objectives. One is that we recommit ourselves to the struggle of the Jammu and Kashmir independence of freedom. It is always necessary that after a year we sit back and introspect, reflect, and then recommit ourselves to the legitimate struggle of the Kashmiri people. Secondly, it is also, I think, imperative that the people of Jammu and Kashmir should know that Pakistan is with them in this struggle, no matter what, and we would not waver, and we will continue supporting their struggle. And the third objective, in my view, is that to create awareness internationally about this particular dispute. Now, how we are faring in all these things, that in my view needs to be discussed. Whether people of Pakistan are still very much committed to this cause, how the struggle itself is being being carried out in Indian occupied Kashmir, how the people in Azad Jammu and Kashmir think about this struggle, and then how or whether or not we have been able to generate much response or traction internationally on this particular dispute. So that, I think, should be the purpose of our today's seminar, and that will lead us to draw or some conclusions whether or not we are in the right direction, whether or not more needs to be done at all these three levels in order to get to our destination, because we do not think that this struggle should continue indefinitely for all times to come. In our hearts, we do believe that Kashmiris have given huge sacrifices, and they have been giving these sacrifices for the last 70, 73 years. Now the time has come that they should also breathe freely. They should be given the right to self-determination, as was committed to them by the international community. There are UN resolutions. So even in Pakistan, my real worry is, because I have served as Pakistan's High Commissioner to India, I have been in the Foreign Service for almost 36 years now. My real worry is that even in Pakistan, people are kind of, getting insouciant, indifferent to this dispute. And they're also losing hope that perhaps there is no solution to this dispute, and at the end of the day, we will have to be complacent with whatever is there, accept the status quo and move on. So that is my biggest worry. So I need to, today's interaction from my perspective would be important in order to understand as to how the youth is thinking about this particular dispute. What would be their worldview of the Kashmir dispute? How would they like this dispute to be addressed, taken forward? So that's why I'm here, and hopefully our discussion this morning would make us wiser.
All right, thank you, sir. Now over to you, Jal Sahab. Now, since we are talking about the diplomatic support, the political support, and the moral support for the innocent Kashmiris, sir. Since you have been the former defense minister, you've also served as a defense secretary, sir. Your take, sir, from that particular perspective, when you were there serving, what sort of an idea you had in your mind regarding Kashmir, sir, that will this issue be solved? Because it seems that this is an ongoing process. God knows when things will settle down, sir.
Thanks a lot. The first thing I think we must ponder on this, whether this issue will be solved. If we just look back in the very recent history, we come across some very big events which we could never imagine that those will happen, and they did happen. The breakaway of erstwhile USSR, the breaking of the Berlin Wall, defeat of very superpowers in areas like Vietnam, other places. So the first thing that we must have some faith in, that things can happen in this world, and very unexpected events can also take place. And this is the one which is not unexpected, because the first thing is that the history tells us that you cannot suppress the people who are vying for, struggling for independence forever. One day or the other, it does happen. Of course, we understand that this world is not a level playing field. In certain cases, the world, support is much better. It is forthcoming. For example, once it was distributed, the Sudan problem and the Darfur problem, the world came and they divided Sudan. Then you must have heard about East Timor, a small island which was separated from, I think, Indonesia. So whenever the community, international community wants, it happens. But why do we celebrate this day, or why do we have to show our solidarity with Kashmiris every 5th of February? The important thing is that we must reiterate to the Kashmiris that we stand by them, and we must reiterate to the world that there are parties to this dispute. And people say 3 parties, I say there are 4 parties. The Kashmiris, the foremost, Indians, Pakistan, and the international community, because there are UN resolutions on that. So today I think you must clear your thoughts about the UN resolutions, about the struggle, whether it is indigenous or not, and about our stance, the Pakistani stance, because it is very important that we must have one voice. You know, discussing within ourselves is all right, but you know, taking the things at international level, whether it should be independent Kashmir or Kashmir, they want to join Pakistan or some other solution, the UN solution or whatever. So I think we must have one solid voice from Pakistan. We can debate our things, you know, within ourselves, but once it goes to international level, we must have the moral stance on which we can stand, and I think that is based on UN resolutions. And there are also some misgivings in the you know, mind of certain people that it was Pakistan which violated, you know, the resolutions of the UN. You must be very clear about it, and you must you all have smartphones. You must see that what those resolutions were, and please study resolution number 80, which was passed in 1950, I think, and see what was the final resolution which was passed and who violated it. Instead of me going into detail, just you know, Google it and you will find out that. So it is important for you, ladies and gentlemen, the young people, that there should be no cobweb in your mind, that if we do not have one stance, what could be the result? And if we do not know ourselves that who violated the resolution, what could be the result? So be clear yourself. And I will just emphasize once again, it was Indians who violated those resolutions, and they are even violating it today. And secondly, we must present one solid basic stance that we will go by the UN resolutions of plebiscite and Kashmiris to ask the Kashmiris whether they want to join Pakistan or India.
Historically speaking, when you look at the past and you look at the history, as mentioned by Jalal Saab, that it has been India that has been violating, whether you talk about LOC issue or you talk about the working boundary, or you talk about the kind of behavior which we have witnessed over a period of time. Sometimes they claim that, you know, they have conducted a surgical strike, God knows where, but they claim it. And then comes another threat from Narendra Modi that, you know, Pakistan deserves to have another similar surgical strike. So when that, and they are not ready to talk. I mean, things are getting so complex that now it seems that the other party is not ready to engage. Whenever you talk to foreign diplomats in Islamabad, they say, well, it seems like a bilateral issue, so, you know, you should solve it out. These two countries should come. But if they're not ready to talk, United Nations, on so many occasions, their Secretary Generals, they've said that, you know, we support the poor people because there are a lot of human rights violations. But nobody talks about the actual reason. Do you think, sir, that we've been not able to sort of market our very legitimate cause in an appropriate manner, sir?
Well, before I answer that question, let me first of all thank Pakistan Television for choosing NUST as a venue for this discussion, and doing a discussion in a format in which the youth of the university is able to participate in it. So my hats off to you. And secondly, coming back to the question that you had asked, that why does not international community get engaged on human rights issues in Kashmir? I think the problem is not the Indian propaganda. The problem is not the lack of advocacy on the part of Pakistan. The real problem is the ignorance, because many people, until recently, there's the report of the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, which has for the first time ever documented and investigated the human rights violation and the extent of human rights violation by the Indian security forces inside Indian occupied Kashmir. And they have come up with this report, and for the first time you have a documentary evidence which has been presented from the Office of the UN Human Rights. So based on this report, and this report of course has been rejected by the Indians, but this is for the first time that this report has documented the extent and the many violations of human rights of the Kashmiris that have been committed by the Indian security forces. So because of this, I think we have a great opportunity to get the parliamentary democracies, for example, the European parliaments, as well as the UK Parliament and many democracies, because India claims itself to be a democracy. So we should ask this simple question, that if India claims to be a democracy, why under that democracy the basic rights, the basic fundamental rights have been denied to the Kashmiris. So that's the question that we need to pose. And the Kashmiris, because Indians have put together 500 to 700,000 military force, so this is one of the highly militarized region, and the Indians do not let the information get out. So I think one of the primary reasons is that the world does not know what is going on inside Kashmir. And that's why the Pakistan has demanded that UN should appoint a special prosecutor, a special representative, which should be mandated to look into these violations of the Kashmiris' fundamental rights. And secondly, I think the issue is because India claims to be a democracy, it's one of the second largest economies of the world, so the world does not pay attention to the rights, to the violations of the rights of the Kashmiris, and they would like to protect Indian government because they have corporate interests associated with them. So I think it's imperative that the Kashmiri struggle has been going on. It is indigenous, it was always indigenous, but particularly the latest phase of the Kashmiri struggle has become indigenous, in which the youth has participated, in which women have participated, and people from all walks of life in Kashmir, they have participated in this struggle. So India can no longer credibly claim that this struggle for freedom has been instigated by Pakistan. I think right now the graph of the struggle is going high, and it is totally indigenous in nature, and that is something that I think while we commemorate the February 5th as a Solidarity Day, that's the time, that's the day we should be remembering, and we should lend our voice to the Indian effort to mute the Kashmiris' voice, and with that we should be able to project it to the world at large.
All right, so very well said. To mute the voice of the Kashmiris, there are no internet services, there are no mobile phone services there, mostly curfew is imposed, they can pick up anybody, they can kill anybody. So many missing people is another major issue out there. Now, Wani Saab, since you're a senior member of the Hurriyat party, now I would like to know, because you've been physically involved also in that freedom struggle, sir. First of all, share your past, what exactly is going on out there, sir, and how difficult the life is for a common man.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank government of Pakistan, people of Pakistan, for observing the 5th February as the Solidarity Day for the people of Kashmir, and secondly, the NAST for providing this opportunity to interact with the students who are here, and of course the Pakistan Television for organizing this event. As far as my own experience in Kashmir is concerned, or as Dr. Riffat was saying, that nowadays the younger generation has taken the moment on. It was always the younger generation in Kashmir which has taken the moment on. I myself and the leaders in all parties Hurriyat Conference, the senior leaders in all parties Hurriyat Conference, or the other resistance leaders, they were in their teenagers or in 20s when they started the resistance against the Indian occupation. And before us, our elders, they are in their teenage started this. But unfortunately, in those days, neither media was available, nor the social media was available. The things could reach you. That how people of Kashmir have struggled against the Indian occupation during the last 70 years. The things did not come up. But we are fortunate, and in this age, we have the social media, despite all the restrictions which India has enacted over there. Even then, the information comes out, and you come to know that the youth activism in Kashmir and the youth and the elders and everybody is involved in this moment. So we say these days there is a youth-led moment in Kashmir. Although I may say always this moment was a youth-led moment in Kashmir. Each generation of youth, they have been consumed in this struggle for freedom in Kashmir. Coming to the current situation, now in Kashmir, as today we are observing the Solidarity Day in Pakistan, the people of Kashmir are rendering their sacrifices for the right of self-determination. And also, you will see the people who get martyred during the fake encounters, during siege and search operations, they are being then buried in the Pakistani flags. So the people of Pakistan, the youth of Pakistan, they have the responsibility towards the people of Kashmir. How far you have fulfilled those responsibilities, I will leave to these gentlemen here, a diplomat, a soldier, a teacher, and a media man, and also the students who are here, how far you have been able to do justice to the Kashmir cause. Is really Kashmir Solidarity Day being observed with zeal and zest, how it should be observed. And I would like to request this time to the youth and to the university, to all others, not to observe a holiday on this. This day should not be declared as national holiday. This is not good. You should do this working day and do it for Kashmir in each and every department, each and every university, in each and every college, to create more awareness about Kashmir. I'll tell you, gentlemen, the youth in Kashmir, the children of this conflict, who are born in this conflict, facing the worst repression of the Indians on one side, but on the other hand, they are resisting not only the military repression, but also the cultural repression which India is enacting in Kashmir. The education-wise, they want to try to change the curriculum in Kashmir. On each and every front, Kashmiri youth, Kashmiri academicians are resisting to it, and Kashmiri youth of this conflict, they have written so much on it. But unfortunately, I will say to the youth of Pakistan, you have to match that. You have to match and give response to the Kashmiri youth. They depend on you. Why we are not heard, we hear always that we are not heard in the international world. No, it's not true. We are heard. The people do listen to us, but we should know how to tell our story to the international community. We should have the argument. We should build our argument and tell them what actually we want. We should not be ourselves confused what we want. That's the one problem. The other problem is that the Indians have created a narrative about Pakistan, about the Kashmir struggle. In the international arena, they paint it as a terrorism, they paint it as a Pakistan-sponsored, and all these things. They try to malign it with the international pan-Islamic terrorism. So we have to counter that narrative. Who will counter that? That is the youth of Pakistan. That is the university students of Pakistan. They should frame their arguments on this. They should counter this. That will be the real solidarity with the people of Kashmir who are sacrificing their life for not only for their rights, but only to safeguard the Pakistan also.
Ahmed Qureshi Sahab, when we talk about the 5th of February, normally a chain of hands that comes in my mind. Since 1990, we have been celebrating, or rather observing this day, trying to tell the world what is exactly going on out there in that part of the world. Now, sir, when it comes to the international media, or it comes to, for example, certain countries which are very influential, for example, United States of America or Great Britain for that matter, the actual story is not presented the way it should be. Rather, the Indian version or the Indian narrative somehow or the other overwhelms that. Don't you think that has been a major problem? And secondly, sir, when it comes to, for example, your organization, you've been very active for this particular cause. You've been going abroad, you talk about it, you do your shows on this, and you try to show the world what exactly going on. But still, we do lack something somewhere. Ahmed Qureshi, would you like to throw light on that aspect, that if not this, then what else needs to be done, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Faisal. The world is actually, we need to change our narrative. The world actually is changing its narrative on Kashmir. And this 5 Feb 2019 is actually a very different Solidarity Day for Kashmir, because we are in the middle of the most exciting, dramatic, and momentous change in Kashmir conflict. It's not like business as usual. It's very different now. Kashmir today, just as a younger generation in Pakistan has forced political change in such a big country like ours. There is a younger generation in Kashmir that has forced the Kashmir agenda on India, Pakistan, the region, and the world. In 2018 and 2019, the world actually has broken its silence on Kashmir. We in Pakistan need to change our narrative. The repeated lines that we keep saying, the world is not listening, the world is not acting, it's not true anymore. While we were busy in our elections, rightly so, obviously, it's our country and our politics, a major thing happened. Dr. Riffat just referred to it, the UN Kashmir report. It was not just a report. It marked the end of silence of the United Nations. A silence of 50 years, almost 50 years of silence of the United Nations ended in June 2018. We obviously were busy in our elections. But this was a major shift that happened at the international, the biggest international organization. Not only that, but for the first time, when India objected to this end of silence by the UN through this release of this report, and India objected to it and launched a campaign against it. What did the UN do? For the first time, the UN did not, take an apologetic stance or say or ignore it and try to resolve it through diplomatic channels. No, the UN took a head-on on India and confronted India and said this report cannot be questioned. It's a credible report. The UN stands by it. And when the Indians, the Indian government obviously still continued to question this report, the UN Secretary General himself stepped in and he said this report represents the whole of the UN and not just one part of the UN that conducted that report and that investigation. It was a major development. Not only that, we keep saying the international media does not listen. I'm here to tell you, as a Pakistani, as an activist, as a journalist, that the international media has done much better work in conveying the voice of the Kashmiris to the world in the last 2 years than, unfortunately, the media for which I work for has done. And this is a fact. We need to change our narrative. As I said, the world is changing its narrative on Kashmir. We need to change our narrative in Pakistan. We're still stuck in the same lines. The world is not listening. They don't want to listen to us. India is more important. That is not true. Each one of these stereotypes are changing. One more example. The world media that never used to talk about India or criticize it, just yesterday, the New York Times published an amazing graphic, illustrative story, novel, about the 18-month-old baby girl, Hiba Nisar, yes, who lost her eye because of a pellet gun. The New York Times never published such a critical piece in India before. Of course, the New York Times didn't do this for the first time. New York Times has been doing this for 2 years. I have not read more scathing, critical editorials about Indian Army's role in Kashmir, in Pakistani media, for example, the way I have read editorials in Washington Post, in New York Times, in The Guardian, in the last 2 years. Things that we never expected, frankly, the US or the British media to say about India. It's happening for the first time. And it's not just the countries, these countries. Other countries media in other countries is doing the same thing. Al Jazeera is doing amazing work. TRT World in Turkey is doing a lot of coverage. Press TV in Iran is doing a lot of coverage. The Chinese, the Russian media outlets, you have the whole world, frankly. Kashmir is no longer a story that is being buried. We need to change our narrative. The world is listening. The world is listening. The world is ready to listen to new ideas and new thoughts in Kashmir. We are not ready in Pakistan. Even the young Kashmiris are ready. Have you seen, I was flabbergasted last year, I think it was in April or March or May, I think, when I saw a picture of a young Kashmiri girl who loves to play basketball. And she was very active in her college, playing basketball, very good in her studies. She would go to school with her, of course, backpack and basketball with her. And she led her peers, other female college students, out on the streets by one simple action. She went for an exercise, a basketball game. She came out. She had that backpack behind her. She was wearing white shalwar kameez. She covered her face like often we see Palestinian youth do when they throw stones. And she had this basketball, a beautiful orange-colored basketball in her hand, and she comes out wearing these boots. She comes out of the college and goes straight to the Indian Occupation Army van standing in front of the college and kicks it. Not once, not twice. She continues, she shouts. Other college students join in, and there was, I think, for about 4 or 5 weeks, Wani Saab, right? For 4 or 5 weeks, because of that basketball playing Kashmiri college girl, for 5 weeks, not male, not boys, not men, female college students were on the streets for about 5 to 6 weeks, giving a very tough time to Indian occupation forces there. So it's all, this is a very exciting time. This is the time the young Kashmiris, people like Burhan Wani, have forced. Kashmir right now is out of India's hands. Nowhere in the last 70 years were the Indian military and the government ever so demoralized about Kashmir and convinced that we do not control Kashmir. Kashmir is out of our hands the way they are right now. In fact, right now, and I know because my organization and Wani Saab's and others, we interact with the Indian civil society as well. Young Indians, just like you, young Indian men and women are also convinced that their government and their military is doing the wrong thing. In fact, let me tell you, we have young Indian lawyers and human rights activists from the Indian civil society across religious lines, Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, who are willing to work with the Kashmiris and with Pakistan and willing to convince their government that what Indian army and government is doing is wrong. The Indian army must get out of Kashmir. So this is a very different time. We need to change our message. We need to have confidence. And the world, the last point, Faisal, the world wants to listen to us. Pakistan is an attractive country. You, the young people, forced change in Pakistan. You brought a celebrity, a sports player into power, whether you voted for him or not. It's a big change. The world is surprised. Everybody's wondering, wow, what have Pakistanis done? What kind of country is this? People want to listen to the Pakistani story, and they want to listen to what you want to say on Kashmir. But we need to change our narrative. You need to make your narrative more attractive. The Kashmiris are doing what they can. But we, as the main advocate of the Kashmiris, we as the one, I and you need to be the voice of that Kashmiri girl who came out with that basketball. She can't show her face because her family will be victimized if she was arrested. That's why she was hiding her face. And that's why all the girls that came out for the next 5 weeks after that also hid their faces. But we need to become the voices, their voice, and we can. It's very easy. But today, it's the easiest thing to do. You have the social media. If Burhan Wani, a 22 or 21-year-old boy, through use of Instagram and Facebook, can do it through social media, we can. The least we can do is to change the narrative and help the world understand. The world is doing a great job at covering what's happening. The UN is doing its job. The international media is beginning to cover. We need to change.
All right, thank you, Ahmed. Now, coming back to you, Basit Saab, I remember once you met the Hurriyat delegation, sir, it was most likely 2015-16?
2014.
14. And then you were summoned in their foreign office, and And there is a lot of issues. Now a point is, sir, since this is something which is accepted by the United Nations, they have a legitimate cause, everything favors them, but yet you can't send UN special envoys or observers there, sir, in Kashmir. We always invite them. Whenever we talk about their issues, they said, well, Pakistan is trying to support the menace of terrorism, and Pakistan is a terrorist state. That's how they claim it. You talk about this importance of the 5th February. I Googled, and I was surprised to see that the Indian channels, interestingly, were saying this is the Pakistani propaganda and they're supporting the terrorists. Look, Jamaat-e-Islami was the Muslim radical party which actually promoted the idea to sort of observe this day. And Nawaz Sharif eventually was the CM in 1990, started observing. Now my point is, and they said, well, see, this particular party was banned in Bangladesh. See, that narrative also sells, because today, this legitimate indigenous movement, unfortunately, has been in one way or the other associated with terrorism. Because when people see somebody covering the face, holding a gun, or for that matter, sir, even you know, throwing stones or something, that relates to Palestine in one way, and then the true trigger-happy armies, totally supported by the Americans, do whatever they want to, and they can get away with that like this, sir. Your take?
Yeah, I think it's a pertinent question as to why the world looks at the Kashmiri struggle as or relates it to the issue of terrorism. Now, after 9/11, things have changed. The world has transformed in many ways. So, from my perspective, the primary question is whether or not we have changed, whether or not we have been able to, as was underlined by Mr. Ahmed Qureshi, whether or not Pakistan has understood the new realities and accordingly tailored its narrative to complement the struggle on the ground. There is a saying in English that fine words do not butter parsnips. We can talk and talk. We can take credit for many things. But in my view, we have not been able overall to do justice with the struggle going on in occupied Kashmir. Perhaps there is confusion in Pakistan itself as to how the dispute could be resolved. At times we get overwhelmed by Indians. We get swayed by their propaganda, by the stuff that India is a rising power, Pakistan is the failing state, and so on and so forth. So now the important question for me is as to how to take this matter forward in order to resolve this issue. Unfortunately, in my own thinking, we have not been able to really to the challenge, in my view, and there are a variety of reasons for that. First of all, in Pakistan, we are fast losing the national consensus we once had as to how the Kashmir issue should be resolved. And I think during President Musharraf's time, when the 4-point formula was presented, that was in my view, was a huge setback for the Jammu and Kashmir struggle. That also manifested in many ways that Pakistan is losing hope in the struggle, and that's why we are trying to find solutions, out-of-the-box solutions, so to say, and are ready to put the UN resolutions or ignore them totally or put them on the back burner in order to resolve the issue. So first, in my view, first question which comes to my mind is that how we rebuild that national consensus in Pakistan And we should be very clear that as far as the people of Jammu and Kashmir are concerned, they are not yet ready to move beyond the UN Security Council resolutions. They are still fighting for their right to self-determination, and they are the primary stakeholders. Though Pakistan and India, we have been talking on this issue, about this issue, but so far we have not been able to really reach a tenable modus vivendi. That may take another decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, but in Pakistan we should be very clear that the Jammu and Kashmir issue should be resolved in accordance with the UN resolutions. Now, I fully understand as a diplomat that you take a public position on certain issues, but then when you come to the dialogue table, there is always, quid pro quos are involved, give and take, compromises. These things do happen, and this is how diplomacy is taken forward. But we need to do all these things with some finesse, with some, on the basis of informed decisions rather than doing things haphazardly, as we had done during President Musharraf's time. Now, the world will continue looking at this problem as an issue of terrorism, because first, I tend to slightly disagree with Ahmed. The world is kind of indifferent. That's why we perhaps need to slightly change our strategy. I do appreciate the fact that the UN Human Rights Commissioner did make a report, but for your information, that report was never adopted by the Human Rights Council, because the governments were not ready to adopt the recommendations of that report. So it continues to be a UN Human Rights Commissioner's report rather than the UN report per se. And then we may have support, we usually resort to forums like OIC, contact group on Jammu and Kashmir. There are 4 or 5 countries in that contact group: Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Niger, Pakistan, and that's it. And the resolution is issued every year, and we then, become complacent that the OIC is supporting us. I think what we need to do is to change our strategy. We have seen during the last 40, 50 years that the governments across the world are not really supporting this cause the way they should be doing that. Now what we need to do is, under the changing circumstances, we need to reach out to civil society. We need to reach out to media, international media. We need to reach out to think tanks. This is what we need to do in order to create domestic, in different countries across the world, domestic pressures on the government.
So I'll just come back to, because since I would like to, maybe I'm sure you have a lot more to offer, which will be having another session with the students, so we can definitely throw more light on that particular. Now, so talking about, Jalsa, the demographic changes. Now, the interesting part is, since according to the Indian law, the Indians cannot buy any land in Kashmir, or a lot is going on out there. But now we see that the Pandits are moving in, the retired army officers are given incentives to make their houses there. The overall population trend is changing. Though the interesting part is that, we always say that our youth is like, we're 65% of the people in Pakistan, primarily they're considered youth, 70% in Saudi Arabia, interestingly, and a similar number in Kashmir and India. Now, sir, the interesting part is that if the demographics are changing that rapidly, obviously the influence is changing, the culture is changing along with that, and on top, the Indian delaying tactic, that's working very well. Don't you think, sir, this could become a problem for us or for the Kashmiris, say, another 10 years down the line, when the Indian economy is going to be among the top 5, look at the way they are increasing their influence all over the world, and things would be pretty difficult for us,
I personally think that will not be a problem. And why do I say that?
Please, sir.
Because demographies do not change by force. This is a social phenomena, and it takes its own natural course. people will try to settle down in areas where they wish to live. So it is very difficult, even if some army officers are being settled there and pundits are being settled there, their families won't join them because they would like to live in an area which is peaceful, which is more gratifying for them. So I understand that they are trying to make this change, but this will not succeed because this is, as I said, this is a social phenomena. The world over we have seen that people move according to their own wishes and according to their own desires. And people do not like to move in areas which are where there is some trouble. So I think that will not happen. But I would like to add one thing,
please,
and that is the military dimension of this entire thing. This question can emerge in your mind whether struggle of these independence seekers can succeed in the face of such a large army. So, ladies and gentlemen, and girls and boys, remember that whenever there is a fight or a conflict, there are few factors which are very important. And the first factor is the incentive of the two sides. One side is fighting for their independence. It is a matter of their life and death for future generations. And the other side is just paid people and fighting. Just to give you an example, that the forces in Kashmir, in the last 1 year, there have been 400 cases of suicide. So you can just imagine the morale of that force which is fighting there. The lower soldiers, they have been killing their own officers, and I think it is more than dozen, such incidents that have taken place. Thousands of people, from the forces, they have deserted their units. So you can imagine the level of morale which the Indian forces are having, and the incentive and morale which the freedom fighters are having. And also, as I said, I alluded to it earlier also, just see that what difference does it make once it comes to the question of morale and incentive. What happened to the largest forces and the most modern forces in Afghanistan against ragtag people who were just fighting for their independence. So we must have this thing in our mind, and we must have faith in the struggle which is going on. But as my other friends are saying, that they are fighting and they are carrying on this struggle because of our promise. We need to stand by them. There are 2-3 narratives which are very common, and I would like to just put before you. One is that we can, and our Chinese friends are also advising that please put it on the back burner first. Be strong yourself, be strong economically, and then you can take this issue. This must be in your mind also, many of the people sitting here. The thing is, the struggle has a directory, a trajectory. It goes, and your own becoming strong, it is another graph. So it is not necessary that once your graph of economy and strength goes up, the graph of the struggle will still be there. So they are struggling today, and even they have the advantage that even the civil society of India, they are a portion of them is siding with them. So this is the time once they require your support. So you cannot say that, okay, let me just hold on, let me first become strong economically, let me first become strong politically, because Chinese may not understand that their problem of Hong Kong or Taiwan is not like Kashmir. In Kashmir, the people are being martyred every day, they are being suppressed, they are being oppressed. So we cannot compare the situations. In every region the situation is different. So please, as I said earlier also, clear your mind about what our stance should be. When should we be helping them all along, or should we wait for some time? Waiting will make what difference? I mean, will the gap between the Indian and the Pakistani economy reduce with the passage of time, or it will further widen, and other factors also. So they require our support today. As far as whether the world is listening or not, I think the thing is in between. We know that the president of UN General Assembly came here and she talked openly about Kashmir. We know that the Secretary General of UN for after a very long time broken the silence, and he is talking about that he is ready to resolve the issue provided both the countries they agree on that. So the things have changed. Yes, I do agree with Basit Saab that we need to do a bit more, and I think once we say that the world is not listening, we must analyze that how the world listens. The first thing is that you have to speak, and second thing is you have to speak the language of the world, and third thing is you must have that wherewithal in the like media and all that which spreads that word. So we have only one English channel, which is PTV World, and other channels are just coming up and they have not come up to that. So unless you speak to the world in the language that they understand, and also use the wherewithal and the technology to make sure that your message goes to them, I think it will work. And I agree with Ahmed Saab that it has started working. So we have to be, we have to change ourselves, and we must understand that now it is working, so how to push it further.
This is what the long-term plan of the BJP plus RSS is. For example, at the time of independence, Muslims of the state were close to 80%. Now they are about 67%.
That's what we were saying.
Jammu is now a Hindu-dominated region. So is Ladakh. Though in Ladakh, 45% are still Muslim, is still in majority, but they have lost the overall majority even in the Ladakh region. So we need to be, and this is despite the fact, despite Articles 370 and 35A, which give special status to Jammu and Kashmir and do not allow non-Kashmiris to settle in or buy property in occupied Kashmir. But this is what the long-term plan of the Indian government is, and we need to be slightly very circumspect about that and be vigilant about that, so that things can change.
For example, if this movement, which is gaining a momentum, in fact, right after the martyrdom of Burhan Wani, and a lot of youth, I mean, look at the kind of energy they have, and they have gotten that into it. And obviously, that is something of prime concern for the Indian authorities. Now, sir, since I have to take a break here, sir, Professor, we'll take a break, and the next question is for you. We'll take a break here. After the break, we'll return and we'll continue our program.